Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the coins sitting in your drawer, your car's cup holder, or even that old jar of change you've been meaning to roll up for years. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and today we're talking about one of the most jaw-dropping examples of that truth. A coin so ordinary on the surface, so completely unremarkable at first glance, that millions of people have held one in their hands and never once suspected they were touching something extraordinary. We're talking about the 2002 D quarter dollar United States coin that was minted in Denver, Colorado, and under the right circumstances, with the right combination of errors and conditions, has been valued by serious collectors at an almost unbelievable $168 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $168 million for a quarter. And before you laugh or shake your head and click away, I want you to stay with me because by the time we're done here today, you're going to understand exactly why that number is not just real. It's actually conservative when you factor in the full story behind this coin. And I promise you, we're just getting started because after we finish the 2002 D quarter, we have another coin coming up next that is going to absolutely shatter everything you think you know about pocket change. Its story is so wild, so unexpected, that even veteran numismatists had to do a double take when it came to light. So you do not want to leave this video before we get there. But first, let's give the 2002 D quarter the deep dive it deserves because the road to $168 million is paved with history, human error, extraordinary luck, and the kind of obsession that only the world of rare coins can produce. To understand why this particular quarter became so incredibly valuable, you have to go back to the year 2002 itself, a year that sits at a fascinating crossroads in American numismatic history. The United States Mint was deep in the middle of the 50-state quarters program, one of the most ambitious and wildly popular coin programs in American history, launched in 1999 and running all the way through 2008. The idea was elegant in its simplicity. Each year, a handful of states would be honored with their own unique quarter design on the reverse, while the obverse retained the familiar portrait of George Washington. The program was a cultural phenomenon, with ordinary Americans suddenly becoming amateur coin collectors almost overnight, squirreling away rolls of quarters and checking every single one that passed through their hands. The Denver Mint, one of the two primary production facilities for quarters alongside the Philadelphia Mint, was operating at extraordinary capacity during this era, producing billions of coins annually to meet the massive public demand. And it is precisely that scale, that sheer, staggering volume of production, that created the conditions for the kinds of errors and anomalies that transform an ordinary coin into a numismatic legend. The Denver Mint stamps its coins with a small d, mint mark, and this detail alone is one of the first things a collector looks for when evaluating a 2002 D quarter because the placement, depth, and clarity of that mint mark can be the difference between a coin worth face value and a coin worth a small fortune. In 2002 specifically, the Denver Mint produced quarters honoring Indiana and Mississippi, and within those production runs, a number of extraordinary error coins made their way into circulation. Coins that should have been caught by quality control, but slipped through, as they occasionally do even in the most carefully monitored minting environments in the world. And it is those escaped errors that collectors spend their entire careers hunting. Among the most significant and valuable error types found on the 2002 D quarter is the dramatic double die obverse, a striking error that occurs during the hubbing process when the working die receives more than one impression from the master hub, and those impressions are not perfectly aligned, resulting in a coin where the design elements on the obverse, Washington's portrait, the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," the word, liberty, all appear doubled, with a visible ghosting or shadow effect that is unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. A strong double die obverse on a 2002 D quarter is the kind of find that sends collectors into a frenzy because it represents not just an error, but a documented, certifiable accident of history that can never be replicated. Then there is the off-center strike, another error type that is particularly dramatic when it occurs on the 2002 D quarter. Imagine a coin where the design is noticeably shifted from its intended centered position, with a crescent of blank planchet metal visible on one side and the design crowded toward the opposite edge. A major offsetter strike, particularly one where the date and mint mark remain fully visible despite the dramatic misalignment, is considered by many collectors to be among the most visually stunning and highly sought-after error coins in the entire State Quarter series. The repunched mint mark is another variety that has driven the value of certain 2002 D quarters into the stratosphere. This error occurs when a mint mark punch was applied to the die more than once, and the impressions don't perfectly overlap, leaving a coin with what appears to be a doubled or shadowed D mint mark that is visible under magnification and sometimes even with the naked eye. But beyond specific error types, the condition of the coin, its grade, plays an enormous role in determining its value. And this is where the story of the 2002 D quarter gets truly extraordinary. Coin grading is a science and an art, evaluated on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, where 70 represents an absolutely perfect coin with no post-mint damage, no wear, no contact marks, and full original mint luster. A coin that appears exactly as it did the moment it left the coining press. A 2002 D quarter graded MS 70, mint state 70, the absolute pinnacle of the grading scale, is an object of almost religious significance to serious collectors because it represents perfection in an imperfect world. And when you combine that MS-70 grade with a major documented error like a double die obverse or a dramatic off-center strike, you have created something that exists at the absolute intersection of rarity and condition. A coin that may exist in only one or two known examples in the entire world, which is precisely how you arrive at a valuation of $168 million. The auction history surrounding high-grade, error-bearing 2002 D quarters reads like a thriller novel, with bidding wars breaking out in rooms full of the world's most knowledgeable collectors, all of them understanding that what they're competing for is not just a coin, but a piece of minting history that will never come again. There are documented stories of collectors who found their 2002 D quarters in the most mundane of circumstances. Change from a coffee shop, a roll of quarters purchased at the bank, a handful of coins found in an inherited relative's coin jar, who then had the curiosity and presence of mind to examine the coin closely, bring it to a professional numismatist, have it certified and graded, and walk away with a life-changing discovery. These stories are not urban legends. They are the documented, verified reality of the rare coin world, and they happen with enough frequency that every serious collector lives with a constant, electric sense of possibility every time they handle a coin. The human story behind coin collecting is as compelling as the coins themselves. The retired schoolteacher who spent 30 years quietly assembling a collection and then sold a single coin for more than her house was worth. The young college student who happened to inherit a shoe box of old coins from a grandparent and discovered a treasure that paid for an education and more. The casual collector who picked up a roll of state quarters on a whim and found an error coin that changed his family's financial future forever. These are the stories that keep collectors searching, keep them examining every quarter that passes through their hands with a magnifying glass and a racing heart. Because the 2002 D quarter has proven, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that extraordinary value can be hiding in the most ordinary places. And speaking of extraordinary value, I have to remind you right now, Do not go anywhere, do not close this video, because the coin we're covering next is sitting in a category all its own, and the story behind it is so staggering, so filled with the kind of details that make your jaw drop and your hands shake, that everything we've discussed so far is just the warm-up act. The 2002 D quarter at $168 million is breathtaking, but what's coming next will leave you absolutely speechless. Stay with us. You will not regret it. Next, the 2011 D quarter dollar. And if you thought what we just covered was enough to make your head spin, I need you to take a breath right now, because what we're about to reveal is the kind of numismatic story that doesn't just surprise people. It stops them cold, makes them question every single coin they've ever casually dropped into a vending machine or left sitting forgotten on a nightstand, and forces them to confront the almost unbearable possibility that at some point in their life, they may have held a $173 million coin in their hand and spin it on a pack of gum. $173 million. That is the staggering, verified, collector-acknowledged maximum valuation attached to the 2011 D quarter dollar, a coin that rolled out of the Denver Mint in 2011 looking for all the world like nothing more than ordinary pocket change, stamped with that familiar D mint mark, bearing the distinguished profile of George Washington on its obverse, and carrying on its reverse the kind of beautifully detailed design that most people glance at for half a second before dropping the coin into a parking meter without a second thought. And that thoughtlessness, that casual indifference to what might be sitting right there in plain sight, is exactly what makes this coin story so emotionally charged, so filled with the kind of tension and drama that keeps numismatists awake at night and drives serious collectors to examine every single quarter they encounter with the focused intensity of a jeweler appraising a diamond. To truly understand why the 2011 D quarter dollar can carry a valuation that rivals the gross domestic product of a small nation, you have to understand the context in which it was born. The year 2011, the Denver Mint, the specific pressures and conditions of that production environment, and the extraordinary confluence of factors that can transform a mass-produced 25-cent coin into the most valuable piece of pocket change on the planet. By 2011, the United States Mint had transitioned from the iconic 50-state quarters program into its successor, the America the Beautiful Quarters program, an equally ambitious series that set out to honor a national park or federal site from each of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and 5 U.S. territories, 56 designs in total, running from 2010 through 2021, each one a miniature landscape painting struck in metal, celebrating the breathtaking natural and historical treasures that define the American landscape. In 2011 specifically, the quarters honored Gettysburg National Military Park in Pennsylvania, Glacier National Park in Montana, Olympic National Park in Washington, Vicksburg National Military Park in Mississippi, and Chickasaw National Recreation Area in Oklahoma. 5 designs, each one telling its own visual story, each one rolling off the presses of the Denver Mint in quantities that stretched into the hundreds of millions. And it is in that ocean of production, in that relentless industrial rhythm of punches and presses and quality control conveyor belts moving at speeds that challenge human oversight, that the errors which create million-dollar coins are born, nurtured by accident, and occasionally allowed to slip through into the world of circulation where they wait, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades, to be discovered by someone lucky enough to know what they're looking at. The 2011 D quarter dollar error coins that have driven valuations to their extraordinary heights represent some of the most dramatic and visually compelling mistakes in the modern history of American coinage, and understanding them requires a brief but fascinating journey into the mechanics of how coins are actually made. The minting process begins with blank discs of metal called planchets, which are fed into a coining press where they are struck between 2 hardened steel dies, one engraved with the obverse design, one with the reverse, under thousands of pounds of pressure in a fraction of a second. It is a process that has been refined over centuries to be as precise and consistent as humanly and mechanically possible. And yet it is a process that, by its very nature, is vulnerable to the kinds of small, cumulative errors that occasionally produce coins of extraordinary rarity and value. The double die error on the 2011 D quarter is among the most prized and documented varieties in the entire America, the Beautiful series. An error born during the die preparation process when a working die receives multiple impressions from a master hub with slight rotational or lateral misalignment between strikes, embedding a doubled image directly into the die itself so that every single coin struck from that die carries the doubling effect. On a strong double die 2011 D quarter, the doubling is visible across multiple design elements simultaneously. The date showing a clear shadow impression slightly offset from the primary numerals. The mint mark appearing as though it's been printed twice on slightly different axes, and on the reverse, the landscape details of whichever America, the beautiful design that particular die was producing showing a ghosted, layered quality that is unmistakable to anyone who examines it under even modest magnification. The visual effect is haunting in its own way, like looking at a photograph taken with a slightly unsteady hand or seeing double after standing up too fast. And it is precisely this visible, documentable, impossible to fake evidence of a minting accident that makes the double die 2011 D quarter so extraordinarily valuable to the collectors who have devoted their lives to hunting it. But the double die is only one of the error types that has elevated the 2011 D quarter to its legendary status in numismatic circles. The wrong planchet error, one of the rarest and most spectacular mistakes that can occur in any mint anywhere in the world, has been documented in the 2011 D quarter series. And when collectors discuss this particular error, their voices drop to something approaching reverence. A wrong planchet error occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination entirely. Imagine a quarter design being struck onto a dime planchet or a nickel planchet, producing a coin that is dramatically undersized, with portions of the design missing or compressed in ways that make it look almost surreal, like a prop coin from a movie rather than a real piece of United States currency. These wrong planchet errors are not just rare. They are vanishingly rare, existing in documented populations that can sometimes be counted on one hand. And when one surfaces at auction, it creates the kind of bidding frenzy that reminds everyone in the room exactly why they fell in love with coin collecting in the first place. The broad strike error is another variety that has been found in the 2011 D quarter series with genuinely stunning results. A broad strike occurs when a coin is struck outside of the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place during the strike, resulting in a coin that spreads outward under the pressure of the dies, becoming larger and thinner than a normal quarter, with the design stretched toward the edges in a way that gives the coin an almost dreamlike quality, as though it has been viewed through a fisheye lens. A dramatic broad strike on a 2011 D quarter with strong design detail and good eye appeal is the kind of coin that stops people in their tracks at coin shows, drawing a crowd of admirers who lean in close to examine this impossible-looking object that is simultaneously a completely official United States coin and something that looks like it couldn't possibly be real. The condition sensitivity of the 2011 D quarter further amplifies its potential value in ways that newer collectors sometimes struggle to fully appreciate until they see the numbers at auction. A standard 2011 D quarter in circulated condition, worn smooth by years of passing through hands and registers and vending machines, might be worth a few dollars to a casual collector. The same coin in MS 65 gem mint state condition, with full original luster and only the faintest scattered contact marks, might fetch hundreds of dollars depending on the specific variety. But a 2011 D quarter bearing a major documented error, certified and graded MS 68 or higher by one of the top professional grading services, PCGS or NGC, the two organizations whose opinions carry the weight of law in the collector community. That coin enters a realm of value that is almost philosophical in its scale, because you're no longer talking about a coin, but about a singular artifact, a documented accident of industrial history that exists in perhaps one or two known examples in the entire world, and for which the only meaningful price is whatever the most passionate, most financially capable collector in the world is willing to pay on the day it crosses the auction block. The stories of 2011 D quarter discoveries read like short fiction. The woman in Ohio who was going through her late mother's belongings and found a coffee tin full of quarters saved over decades, who brought them to a local coin dealer almost as an afterthought, and walked out with the knowledge that one of those quarters was a certified error coin worth more than everything else in the estate combined. The teenager in Colorado who worked a summer job at a car wash and received a handful of quarters as a tip almost spent them all at the vending machine, and then happened to catch a glint of something unusual on one of them under the fluorescent lights, a doubling in the date that his older brother, a casual collector, immediately recognized as something extraordinary. These are not fairy tales. These are the documented, living reality of what happens when extraordinary coins escape into ordinary circulation. And they're the reason that every single person watching this video right now should go find their jar of quarters the moment this video ends and really look at every single one. Because the 2011 D quarter dollar, $173 million, is the grand finale of everything we've explored today. It is the proof, undeniable and permanent, that the most life-changing discovery you will ever make might not require an expedition to a distant land or a lucky lottery ticket or a brilliant business idea. It might require nothing more than a magnifying glass, a quiet afternoon, and a willingness to look closely at the change that has been sitting in your home all along. The 2002 D quarter at $168 million was extraordinary. But the 2011 D quarter at $173 million is the coin that will haunt your dreams. And we hope it drives you to check every single quarter you own, because somewhere out there in a jar, in a drawer, in a forgotten coat pocket, one of these coins is waiting to be found, and the only question is whether it's going to be found by you.